Yes, no. Is it clear here, this one for everyone or not?
Yes.
Good. Combine selector, descendant, I told you here, descendant is mean everyone, the child, the grandchild and everything. We have direct descendant here. It must be the child of the element, like section here. Of course, we studied that yesterday. That's why I'm going a little bit fast. Here, the plus means that this element must come after the div. And both of them must be sibling. Sibling must be brothers. That means they have the same parent. Here is the general sibling selector. It doesn't have to come after the div directly. It's okay as long as it's coming after the div. Don't think there is a problem here as well. Pseudo classes normally it's come after the element, use one colon. For example, here, if we take a link, you could have visited hover the most used property here. Also, you can select first child and nth child if you want to, using what we call the nth child selector here. Any problem here? No? Okay. Pseudo element here, it means they are not real element. We can just kind of creating them from our CSS, not from our HTML. Now, we don't use that a lot actually, but it's a good idea to know. All the time, pseudo elements, they are coming after the element, but you're using double colon here, before and after. And like that, you can, for example, add an image or add a content or add a text, depending what you need. Attribute, we discussed this one here. I told you if you want to use select multiple elements with the same classes, you can also use this way here. So you need to put like a square bracket, the class here. If you put pipe here, that means the name of the class must be exactly here. It will select all the element which has a class, the same exactly like height or height, and after height dash, like that minus. That's the only possibilities here. If you are using caret here, that means my class or the element class must start with HID. That means it will select all the element which they have a class start with HID. Of course, $, that means int. That means if I want to select multiple element with, let's say, which they have different classes, I can use $, and $, here means that the class need to end with this one. It doesn't matter with what it's starting. What is important here is what ending. And we have asterisk. If you are using asterisk, that means my class should contain TE. It doesn't matter if it's from beginning or the end or in the middle. The most important thing is that the class or element class should contain this TE. I think that's clear. No problem with that. Yes, no? No answer.
Yes, it's fine.
Okay. So we're just reviewing a little bit what we studied yesterday. For the colors here, you can use hexadecimal here. Normally, it's come with hash, and after that, you need to have like 6 different color. If the color, for example, that's let's say 212 and then 212, you can just ignore the last character. If they are the same, they are repetitive. You can just put 212 like that. There is many way to represent a color. You can use RGB, and RGB is for red, green, and blue. It's different percentages of them. So 34 it will be red, 34 it will be green, and 32 it will be a blue. There is another way we can use a color. We don't use it much, so to be honest. I've rarely used this one. HSL, H it's for the hue. And the hue simply is the degree of the white. So it's from 0 to 360. You can use any degree of that. So yeah, the hue, it's the value come from 0 to 360. After the hue, we have saturation. A saturation here is its percentage. If it's 100%, it will be full color. And if it's less than 100, it will be a little bit less color. Lightness is how the color is light or dark. If it's 0%, it will be dark. And if it's 100%, it will be white. But then again, here, we don't use this stuff a lot. Most of the time, either we use RGB or hexacolor. Borders, that should be fine. Margins should be fine. It's easy. Links, that should be fine. List should be fine. You know what's the difference between display none and visibility hidden? We explained yesterday. So display none, it will remove the element and its space on the page as it does not exist at all. Visibility hidden, you will not see the element on the page, but it will keep its space. So the space the element taken, it will keep it. Position, we studied a little bit about positions yesterday. So we have 5 different positions we can use. The element default position is static. That's the default one. So by default, the element is static. And by static here, when the element is static, you are not allowed to use the property top, bottom, left, and right. This property, it will not be implemented on it. Fixed, as the name suggests, that means the position, it will be fixed. So all the time it will be in the same place, which means always stay in the same place. Even if you scroll the page or does not scroll the page, the element, it will be fixed. Now we have something called relative. That means its position, it will be relative to another element. If I put the element position relative, that means I can use top, bottom, left, and right property. And it will, of course, when I define the position as relative, it will be disconnected from the page. So as it does not belong to my website, it will be disconnected. And after that, you can control it easy and put it, for example, here, top 0, left 0, or top right 0 here or here or here. And you can change the value until you are happy with this position. Absolute, also, it will be positioned in relative to the closer ancestor. So if it will be close to the parent, or if you did not define the parent here, it will be close to the HTML tag, the main one, the HTML tag, which is the root. Sticky, yeah, it will sticky all the time. It will be just like a sticker here. And if you scroll or does not scroll here, it will show on the screen all the time. Do you want me to show you by example the position, or you understand them?
Examples.
Okay, sure. Let me just get rid of this one. Okay, future. I think I have this thing here. Click it. Let me open my CSS here. Click. I need to create some elements here. So the default position for any element here, let's just give with class parent. And let's here put some element. I don't know. Let's put a paragraph with, I don't know, paragraphs are good, for example. Let's just put one here and duplicate this one a few times, maybe. No, this 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, like that. Let's open it in live server. Okay. So my parent element, I told you the element by default, its position here is static. So if the position is static and try, for example, let me select, for example, this element here, its position, it will be static by default. And let's try to add, for example, top, I don't know, 220 pixel. Of course, it will not affect. As you can see, they are in gray colors. That means they are not affecting. Why? Because I told you by default, the element, its position are static. When they are static, you cannot just add the property top, bottom, left, and right. It's not going to be implemented. Is the idea clear? For static is the default value here. Let's take relative and absolute. So if I take my paragraph here, P, and let's add a class here, just say class, and let's add class P1, for example, like that. Let's select all the P and let's give them width, 200 pixel, and let's give them height of 200 pixel. And let's give them a background color of something like bluish maybe. And let's give the color White. Maybe this one it will be black, it's better. Let's see if that's what I want to. Yeah, it's not bad, as you can see. We have our different element here. That's okay. So let me just give them different classes. So P1, P2, P3. So I'm gonna copy this one. I'm gonna add this one here, this one here, this one here, and this one here. I will make it 2, 3, 4, and 5. Of course, that's bad name classing, but it's just for demonstrations. That's it. Now, what I want to do now, first, we're seeing the position static. It's just the default one, so it's not that interesting, actually. If we go to the second one now, I will go to the parent. If I'm trying now to implement the second one, let's say, I want to implement the relative here or absolute here. So to make something relative, the relative, that means it will be relative to the parent here. So I need to select the parent, which will be the div, and I give it position relative. And I need to select the child and give it position absolute. And in this case here, the position of the element, it will be relative to the parent here. What do I mean by that? Let me just get rid of, no, just keep it. Let me select the parent, so dot class parent, and I will give it a position here, relative. And after that, I will select the paragraph 1, let's say, and I will give it position absolute. So when I give now, is the parent here, its position is relative, just like in this example. And the child here, its position is absolute. Now the position of the child now, it will be, of course, when I say position absolute, it will be disconnect from the page as it does not exist. And after that, I can add some property, let's say top 20 pixel, let's say. I want top and left, for example, 20 pixel. We need to see that. So let's go here. Notice what happened to my element here. Before I add this position relative and absolute to my element, it was inside my page. So there is 1, 2, 3 like that. Now it's kind of disconnected. It removed from my page. Why? Because simply its position is absolute according to the parent, was the parent position here, it's relative. That means I can now control whenever I want to. So if I want it to the top, I can increase this one or decrease this one, and it will overlap some other element. It's fine. So it will overlap or come on the top of other element. It's kind of removed or disconnected from my page. Voila, something like that. Before I make the position absolute, it was here. It was instead of the 2 here. So I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But when I make the position absolute like that, it will disconnect from the page. And like that, here using this property top and left, I can position it whenever I want to. Of course, I can control if it will become to the top of the element or behind the element. Is the idea clear, someone? Yes?
Yeah.
Now, what if the parent position is not relative? If I don't define the parent position as a relative, what will happen? What do you think it will happen? So again, I make the parent position relative. That means when I say the child, it will be absolute. It will be the position here top. It will be relative to the parent because I give a position to the parent, which is here relative. But what if I don't give a position to the parent? What will happen?
It can move.
Yeah.
It can move the child.
It will be?
The child will not move.
No, it will remove, but it will be relative to something else, not the parent.
Body. Relative to body.
To the
Body?
body? No, actually, it's not to the body. Daria? If I did not specify the position of the parent as a relative, now I make the child, the position is absolute. Now it will be in respect, it will be top and left, comparing or according to which element?
According to HTML?
Indeed, according to the HTML tag, which is the root. Because what's happening here, when I set the position to absolute, after that it will go to the parent to check if it has a position or not. If it does not have the parent, it will go again to the body. If the body does not have anything, then it will go to the HTML tag, which will be the root tag.
Yeah.
And now, if you notice here, the position, it was not like before. Now, if I make it, for example, if I increase this one here, 14, 15, it will not be like in respect to the parent. No, it will be in respect to the HTML tag here, which is this tag here. And to make it clear, if I make it 0 and make this one 0 here, it will go to the top here, as you can see. Of course, I have some spaces here, as you can see. So on the left, it's 0, but at the top, I have some spaces. Can anyone tell me why do I have some spaces here? Why do I have?
That is the margin, right?
It's by default.
It is by default because I told you some element. My browser, as you can see here, say user agent, it gives by default some styles. For example, like margin, as you can see, 1 AM to some element. So the reason why this one is giving some space here, it's my browser gives some element default, some style. Is the idea now a little bit clear or not? Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Absolute we've seen, relative we've seen as well. Now sticky here, if I say sticky, it will be like just like you put a sticker here. Let's try to come inside. Come inside. Let me just put this one here, position sticky. Like that. And I do not have a lot of element, but notice when I say sticky, it will be all the time like that. So it will be just like a sticker, and the other element, it will scroll under from it. Okay. Let's add more element just to make it a little bit more clear. I will repeat this element multiple times just so we can see it. Voila. And now notice that's a sticky position. So the element are scrolling, but this guy, because it's sticky here, it will stay there all the time. So maybe I can make the left a little bit more so we can see it better. That, come inside. Okay, now notice. So because it's sticky here, as you can see, it's just like you put sticker on your computer. It will never move like that. The idea is clear, guys, or not?
Yeah, but sticky, that's look like fixed.
Yeah, there is a little bit different between them. Fixed, it will, so the sticky here, the sticky one, it will always be in the same position, but the fixed here, it will not change the position. So if, how can I say? Actually, they're quite close. Maybe I can show the different stickies positions, user position, but no, the fixed is not, which means always stay in the same place, even the page scroll. So for fixed here, it will stay in the same position, even if you scroll or not. But the sticky one here, it's actually affected a little bit. There is a little bit different between the two. Actually, maybe I can Google it. Let's see if I can find what's the difference between sticky and fixed position CSS. Element with position fixed property is fixed to the viewport and does not move in respect of, so yeah, the fixed, it will never be moved according to the scrolling, but the sticky here can scroll over there, so it will little bit affect by scrolling. That's the difference between the two. Who asked me? Adil?
Yes.
Okay, so the fixed position, it will never affect by this. If you scroll the page or not, it will never be affected. It will always be there. But the sticky one, it may affect according to the scrolling. So if you move it here, it will not do anything. But if you come to the specific place and scroll it, it will be affected. Its position will be affected by scrolling. Is it okay or not?
Yes.
Good. What else do we need? Z index. Z index, I showed you yesterday, the Z index, I told you, you can show an element above another element or behind another element. And the Z index can be implemented only if you make the position not the default one. But the default one is static. You need to change the static. If the element position is static, which is the default one, you are not allowed to implement Z index. So you need to change the position, make it, for example, relative or absolute. And then if that's the case, you can control the Z index here and make it either above the element or behind the element. Should be easy, the Z index, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah? Yes, no?
Yes.
Good. Let me just stop recording a second. Okay. So what is the overflow? The overflow, like now, sometime, if you remember, I think one of you asked me in the last or previous, the last class, sometime your page, when you try to scroll it this way here, it's scrolling because the content of the page is too much for the page. So it scroll to the right here, horizontally or vertically, yes, but it scroll horizontally this way. So how can, if we want to avoid that, how can we avoid that? How can we not allow our page to be scrolled horizontally in this direction? Okay, to do that, we have something called overflow. Where is it? 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 Overflow here. And all you have to define, of course, you can just say overflow X because that's the X axis, which is the horizontal one. You can just make it, for example, hidden. And if that's the case, it will stop from scrolling, simply like that. So to allow your page to be scrolled horizontally this way in the X axis, you can, for example, say overflow X. You can make it visible, and like that, it will be allowed to scroll. Or actually, you need to make it scroll. If you make it scroll, it will be able to scroll it. Auto, that means depending on the content of the page, it will scroll if it's necessary. And hidden, that means it will not allow to scroll. Is the idea clear now, guys? Yes? No?
Yes.
No answer.
Yes.
So yeah, float. The float here, if you have an image or an element, you can float an element to the left or the right, or float none. So let's see here, float right. Let me just get rid of this one, this paragraph, and let's try to float left. No, I want right, for example. Let's just get rid of this one. Let's see if that will work or not. Yeah, so if I say float the element to the right, as you can see, is the one here, it's been moved to the right. I can float to the right, I can float to the left. If I click on this one, float here, it could, so it has different value actually. If I say left, it will stay as in its place. By the way, here now the 2 is under 1. If I say float none, it will be just as I didn't add anything. If I float to the right here, it will just move it to the right. We used float before the flex boxes. After the flex box and the grid, we don't use float a lot. Is the idea of the float is clear. So float, you can just move the element to the right or to the left according to your need if you want to. Yeah?
Yes.
Yes.
What else do we have? Display inline block, that's quite important actually. Now, if you remember when we studied HTML, I told you we have inline element and we have block element. Can anyone tell me what's the difference between inline element and block element?
Inline element, it comes on the same line.
Yes. And block element?
Block element under element. It takes full width.
Yeah, something like that. So
For
let's
block elements, it always start with a new line.
true. So block element, that means it will take the whole space and will start with a new line. Inline elements, they will not start with the new lines. They will only take the space they want to only. Okay, so if I have to span now, hello again, they will not start on a new line. Hello again, let's see. Because the span is simply an inline element. But if I do the same with the div, let's try to do it with the div like that. And I say by And I say from now here, another div, let's say now. And now if I go to my, see by now, all because both of them are divs, they start on a new line, but this one are span here. So that's mean both of them, they will only take the space is needed. That's okay. That's so far, that's fine. But there is another property here. Now, if the inline element here, if I put height and width on the element which is inline here, and top margin padding, all of them, it will not be respected. So I cannot use the property width or height, or I can use margin button or top, or padding bottom or top for the element when it's inline. If I add it, it will not be implemented. What do I mean by that? Let's click on this one. Let's select our div, and let's here add height, for example, and let's make it 200 pixel, and let's make width and make it 200 pixel. And now let's select the span, and span also, let's add the same property and see what will happen. To make it really nice, I'll just add a background color so we can see both of them. Here I just name it red, and here I'll add a background color and I make it blue or black, it doesn't matter. Let's go to our element here. Now notice what will happen, or what happened actually. I give my divs a height and width, and as you can see, the divs here, both of them here, they are showing actually the height and the width. So let me inspect it, see the height and the width here, both of them are shown. And if I increase them or decrease them, see they are being increased or decreased. But if I go to the span, notice what happened to the height and width. Both of them are, both of them in gray color, and they are just like some note here. So some quotation here is telling me you cannot add this property to inline element, because if you add so, they will not be respected, they will not be implemented. Is the idea clear? Yes? No?
Yes.
So for block element, you can define the height, the width. You can also define the margin and the padding, which is top and bottom, and all of them, it will be respected. But for inline element, if I add height and width, or let's say padding top or bottom, so let's say padding top here, and I add 200 pixel, actually should not, padding top, it should not be respected actually. Why it's respected here? Padding top, padding bottom. Let's try with margin top, and make so the margin actually, the margin, it will not be respected, margin top and bottom, but the padding will be respected. It's look like. Again, with inline element, if I try with margin top and margin bottom, it will not show me anything. Even if it's implemented, to show me nothing. But with the padding, they are working. That with inline element. Of course, with block element, everything is implemented, everything is respected. Is the idea clear? Yeah? No?
Yes.
But now the question is, can I make this inline element, at least the behavior, can I make it similar to the block element? What do I mean by that? What I mean by that, if I want to add the height and width for this, no, I need the background. If I want to add the height and the width, let's say, for this inline element, can I make it? Is it possible? Yes, no?
No.
Yes.
How can I make it?
With display inline block.
Okay, so that's nice. So if I say display inline block, what display inline block is doing? Well, display inline, I need inline block here. So inline block here, what is it going to do? It will make the inline element just the behavior as it is block elements. That means the height and the width here, it will be respected. So if I go back now, as you can see here, now the height and the width is being respected. It's kind of, I'm changing the behavior of the inline element. It's still inline element, yeah, but I've changed the behavior, and now it's act like it is a block element. Is the idea clear? Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
good. What else? Display inline block, display block or inline. It really depend on your need. Inline block, you can set the height and the width, the top and the bottom margin, and padding will be respected. Everything will be respected if you make it inline block. Block, everything is respected by default. CSS units. In CSS, most of the time, actually, most of the time we use this pixel here. You can use centimeter, millimeter, inch, PT here, but most of the time we use the pixel. We have some, that's absolute units. We have some relative unit. We have something called EM. And if I say, for example, 2 EM, it will be twice the size of the current font. The current font here of the element. So if the current font of the current element, let's say it's 10 pixel, 2 AM here, it will be double. It will try to make it double. So it will be 2 times the size of the font, a current font in using for the element. Is the idea clear? Yes, no? So EM here, it's relative to the font size. If the font size of the element, let's try to do something actually here. Let me take this one here and let's say, for example, font size. Let's make it 20 pixel like that. And now I want the height, for example. No, maybe it will be something else. Let's make the border like that, for example, 2 EM. So EM means the current font size is 20 pixel here. 2 EM, it means it will be double the current font size. Let's here, I don't think it will show me the border, so I need to add another thing here. I need to add the color. Let's make it black and let's make it solid. Let's go here. And as you can see here, so what is doing here, the border here, it will be twice the size of the current font here. So it make it really big here. Let me click it. Now we have 2 EM. I can increase it, of course, make it 3 EM, 4 EM, and or I can make it less. It really depends on your need. This is a relative unit. It's not an absolute unit. You can use, of course, absolute unit. For example, you can make it 10 pixel, and most of the time we use pixel, at least for border here, but also you can use some relative unit. So some of the relative unit, as I told you, it's EM. EM, that's me. If I say 2 EM, that means it will be twice the size of the current font. If I'm using rem, there is a little bit different between EM and rem. EM is relative to the font size of the element, but rem is relative to the font size of the root element, which will be the HTML. So if the font size, it will always be relative to the font size. Both of them are relative to the font size, but one of them for the element font size, and rem is the font size of the root element, which will be the HTML tag. Clear? No.
Yes.
Good. We have view width, view height. So view width is what you see in the screen. It will be divided into 100. So you can make it 15 view width. That means here it will take half of the screen here. You can make it 100 of view width. View height also here, that will be 100 and it will be divided into parts. So if I say 15 view height, it will take half of the screen from the top here to the bottom. Percent, you know what the percent here, it will be mostly relative to the parent. All the time the percent unit, it will be relative to the parent size. Is it okay? Is the
Yes.
unit are okay? Fine. Specificity, we study this one. I told you the most or the most specific style here, they are inline styles. Then we have IDs, then we have classes, then we have element and pseudo element. Then we have universal selector, which has the lowest specificity. We studied them yesterday. One important thing here, you should not use it all the time. Actually, you should try to avoid using this one. But for example, Rachel, I can hear myself. You should try to avoid using this property, which is called important, because important here will override all the other style. If I say, for example, background color red important, even if I have any other style, it will not respect this specificity. It will implement this color no matter what. But it's always a bad idea and not a good idea to use this important here. You should try to avoid it unless it's the last solution. Is the idea clear?
Yes.
Good. Any question related to the basic of CSS? Any question related to the basic of CSS? Yeah. Rodika,
No, not yet.
the rest?
No.
Okay. Let's see what do we have in advanced CSS. It's not too much actually. And I'm not gonna give everything today. I'm just gonna give you a little bit stuff. So, because if I get you transformation and transition here, it will be animation. It will be a little bit difficult for you. So let's start. I will pick something simple for now for today. Border radius, and I will take the variable in CSS, and the rest I'll keep them for tomorrow. Okay, so what the hell is the border radius? Actually, it's quite nice property. Click here, and let's just remove the border, and I will make the border a little bit nicer, maybe. Let's make it 2 pixel, and make it solid, and make it, for example, black. And in here, let's give it some margin here, margin top and bottom. I don't want the other one. So let's say top, I want a 20 pixel with 0 pixel. And let's see. So yeah, that's okay. That's fine. That's not bad, as you can see. Now, if I came to this div here and I give it a border radius, and I make it, for example, 10 pixel. Most of the time we use it in percent, but you can use it pixel as well. So as you can see, what happened to the border is kind of rounded a little bit. So what's border radius here, it just makes the border a little bit rounded. So as you can see now, if I make it 0, the border here, it will be, yeah, just like an angle. But if I increase the border radius, notice what will happen. They will become like that. Voila. And of course, if I make it 15%, it will be like a circle. 15%. Normally, that's a 15% to make an element like around it here. Of course, it's not quite nice because it takes the whole space. But if I implement it on another element, it will be just like a circle here. And that's simply the border radius. Cool? Is it cool or not?
Yes.
Yes.
Good. Let's take the last one for today, which is variable in CSS. We can define some variable in CSS. What do I mean by variable in CSS? Let's say I have a color I am using in my website a lot. Most of the time I'm using it. Instead of repeating the color, this color again and again and again and again and again, because if I repeat the color multiple times, and after that, if I decide I change my mind, I came to change the color, now I need to change it in 100 places, which is really bad. So CSS allow me to create some variable. How can I create the variable? Well, I will have to do here, I need to define them in root. I mean, that's the syntax here. I'll just say colon root, and I define it in the root, and then dash dash, for example, I can name it whatever I want to. Primary color, for example, that's the name of the variable. So the rule here, I need to say dash dash and the name of whatever the variable I want to. I can save font size, whatever I want to sense here. And when I want to use this variable, I need to say var and then the name of my variable. So let's try to implement it here. Let's go in here. So to create a variable, I need to define just like that, root like that. And now I will create my variable. So to create a variable, I need to use dash dash and the name of my variable. Let's name it, for example, primary color. Primary color like that. And primary color, let's give it any color I want to. For example, let's say 1, 2, 3. Yeah, why it's not implemented here? Okay, now that's primary color, which is good. I can maybe make it a little bit greeny if I want to. It's totally up to you what you want. But I don't want that. I hate RGB. Yes, that's nice. Yeah, that's my color, my primary color. Now, because I defined it as a variable here, Now I can use it whenever I want to. I can use it with 20 different elements if I want to. So let's use it here. Let's use it in a span like that. And let's get rid of this one here, something like that. Let's make the background color. And now to use my variable, I need to use var, so var function, and like that. And I can use it multiple times if I want to. Let's use it with a span as well. And like that, if I go now here to my element, so the background of both of them, as you can see, it's implemented according to the variable. And you may tell me, okay, but what's the big thing about the variable? I can just repeat this color twice. Yeah, but the idea here, when you build a website, there is some color, you use them all the time. And sometimes you use them like 100 or 1,000 times in different 100 or 1,000 places. If you decide after that to change your colors, that means you need to go to 100 or 1,000 places and replace them manually, and that's really annoying. Instead of that, if I decide to change my color, it's simple. I can just change it in this place, and those will be updated automatically. For example, I want to change the color now to something else, for example. So let me make it blue, for example. If I do that, now I go here, voila, as you can see, it's been changed automatically. And that's how create variable in CSS. Is the idea clear?
But we always create in the root.
Yes, you need to create them in the root. That's a rule for creating variable in CSS.
Okay.
Yeah. You don't have to store color here. You can store whatever you want to. You can store here width if you want to. You can store here whatever you want to. You can store here. It doesn't have to be color. Any property you want to store, you can store in a variable. And then all you have to do when you want to use a variable, you need to call the function var, and then put the name of the variable here, which is b dash dash primary color. And the name of the variable all the time must start with dash dash. And then if you have multiple name, you can use a kebab casing. If you have only one name, so let's, for example, remove this one, just make it primary, and do the same here. Like that, you don't have to add anything here, just the name of my variable. Voila.
Samir, but if we decide to, for example, we don't want our current color, the primary this, and we decide to change again the color, but again we also have to go to different elements and change also to var like that. It's not automatic that it will change from root to elements, right?
You mean now if I change the color, it will change the color here or not?
For example, you don't want the blue anymore, you want it red. So you change this in the root to red.
It
But
will be changed. Of course, it will be changed because it's variable. So now I've changed this one. See, both of them are changed.
Okay. So you don't need to go through
No, I mean,
elements.
that's the reason why we are using a variable.
Okay.
Because we are using the variable because I don't want to go to all the places and change them manually. If I just change it in the root here, it will be changed automatically. That's the reason we are doing a variable.
Okay.
Any question?
Yes, Amir. And that will work, for example, for every div.
I'm sorry.
If for example, I have 5 div,
Yes, if you add five.
I just have to put var primary just one time.
Yes, of course, because it depends how you select the element. Now, if I have 5 divs,
If I don't have a class.
Yeah, you don't have a class, but I'm selecting all the divs like that, everything. So if I go all of them, that's a 5 is being selected. But if you want for one of them, you need to give it class and like that selected and add it. Clear, added? Or
Okay,
not?
that's clear. Oh.
Good. So now you know how to create a variable in CSS. It could be interesting. You can store, I don't know, the font size, whatever you want to property in a variable and use them. It's quite practical. Now you know how some other property. Now you know how to position your elements. That should be okay. Now the rest for CSS is mostly related to most transition, transformation, to transform it to 3D, to give it an angle, something like that, animation. So most of the time you will not use this one unless you want to go very deep in CSS. So I'm gonna keep this one for tomorrow, because if I'm explaining now, you will get confused. Let's stop now and go back to our portfolio, try to complete our CSS. And as I told you, tomorrow I'm gonna explain the transform 2D, 3D, and then we have transition and also animation if you want to add an animation. Clear? Yeah.
Yeah.